of Americans feel as if they are trapped on a bad reality show, naked and afraid, while the president insists that fear is not real and that we are all cloaked in the most exquisite garment known to man. Joseph Robinette Biden promised to be the return to normal president. Instead, he has normalized running roughshod over the concerns of the Americans who disagree with him, while ignoring the dangers that such an approach poses to the core tenets of our American republic. Now, this week alone, we witnessed the White House urge private businesses to ignore a court-ordered pause on vaccine mandates. The U.S. Court of Appeals didn't just order a pause on the vaccine mandates, by the way. They then affirmed that decision, calling the mandate, quote, fatally flawed, and ordering OSHA to, quote, take no steps to implement or enforce the mandate until further court order. And the response from the Biden administration, well, it was effectively, we don't care. Proceed anyway. As if the word of the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals was some useless suggestion from a stranger on the internet. That's not America, folks. That's what we call the building blocks of tyranny. Because when we are no longer a nation of laws, we descend into a land of lawless chaos. Indeed, signs of that chaotic descent are everywhere around us. This week, rebels stormed the U.S. Embassy in Yemen and took several U.S.-employed security personnel hostage. In fact, some remain hostages right now as I speak. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, don't worry, I'm not surprised. The media willfully ignores the incompetence of the Biden presidency, and if the administration literally left American citizens stranded on the ground in Afghanistan, 75 days now and counting, this is clearly barely a blip on the radar. Which actually makes sense when you look at what's happening right now, because it's so much more terrifying. Because it speaks to how comfortable our enemies are at attacking us. It speaks to how unprepared we find ourselves for the looming conflicts of a rapidly changing 21st century world. See, China is tightening its grip on Taiwan not because they are blind to the geopolitical implications, but because they no longer believe America has the political will to act. Russia is threatening to invade Ukraine again. And it's not because they don't recognize the potential backlash. It's because they remember the last time Joseph Robinette Biden was involved in U.S. foreign policy. Russia literally marched into Crimea, annexed that land from the Ukraine, and the Obama-Biden administration didn't do a thing about it. You see, because when you allow millions of individuals to cross your own border illegally, day after day, month after month, with a wagon train of cartels sneaking in illicit drugs behind them, well, you lose the moral standing to lecture the world on the true definition of sovereignty. And so, as it turns out, when America ceases to lead by example, when we trample not just on personal liberties, but the process we have put in place to affirm those liberties, the world does indeed take notice. When we demonstrate we are willing to break our word to our own citizens, even when they find themselves trapped abroad in a nation overrun by terrorists, the world does, in fact, take notice. See, trust and fear, they are two sides of the same coin. And when one side of that coin is revealed to be defective, the entire balance is revealed to be counterfeit. A timeless novel, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens starts with the famous line, it was best of times, it was the worst of times. But it's perhaps the words that follow that are the most powerful and most prescient for the dangers we face today. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. So we have to decide which America we want to live in. We have to decide what kind of world we are willing to forge and what we are prepared to sacrifice to achieve it. Lest we remain so blinded by our political divisions that we find ourselves naked and afraid before the entire world.